Hello and welcome to Clock Spinning, the podcast of Magic's history as told card by card. Well, not podcast, YouTube series. I'm Austin, and with me, as always, is my co-host Connor. How are you today, Connor?
I'm doing very well. I've got my Christmas spirit, my holiday spirit going.
Oh
Got my
yeah,
red sweater here. You
oh
got
yeah.
you got a lot going
I got a
on
lot of
Christmas
holiday
wise.
going on here. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. And what we are doing here with this video today is talking about 10 let's say 10 of the most Christmassy holiday spirity cards we could find,
Yeah.
loosely defined.
Yeah. I know we promised that in the title. It's 10 cards. So what we may have oversold it a bit, Connor, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to review every card in Magic with reindeer, sleighs, or snowmen, and I think we can agree that's a pretty holiday-ish collection of cards.
That's what everyone looks for this time of year.
Right. Well, should we go ahead and dive in?
Yeah, let's
All
do
right.
it.
So, first card up is, can't get more iconic a start, Tundra. So, Tundra, of course, I guess I should read it. Tundra is a land. I'll read the alpha text because it's great. Counts as both islands and plains and is affected by spells that affect either. Tap to add either blue or white to your mana pool. And of course, now it is just land, island, plains. Um, so super iconic card. Actually, the first thing I'm noticing as I'm reading it is it says something about alpha card design that counts as both islands and plains and is affected by spells that affect either. Comes before what it taps for. I mean, in terms of alpha having tons of ways to mess with lands, like that seems very telling. I never noticed that before. Anyway, Tundra, very iconic card. It's an alpha beta, unlimited, dual land. This is a top two color combo, right? It's blue. I think the name, I've always loved the name of Tundra. Oh, we should say how we're reviewing cards for anyone who's new to the show. So, normally we review cards on like card design, place in Magic history, art, and then today we're also going to review them on Christmas vibes, and then we'll give them like an A to S U2B kind of rating, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I like this card. I love the name. I think Tundra, one of the great things about the OG duels is they stole like most of the good land names like right off the bat. And Tundra is a great name for like plains plus island all together. I've always thought that's just a great bit of naming.
Yeah, yeah. I really love the old wordy explanation of what a multicolor land is, and like you say, like the more important part in Alpha was to talk about all the things that can be done to this land and what it counts as for like land walk and stuff like that. Don't worry about what you can tap it for, why you'd actually play this. Just to think about what your opponent might do to screw you over with these two types of land.
Yeah, another thing I've always loved about the OG duels, just card design wise, is I feel like they illuminate like one how much card design technology has sort of just been created since then. Like if you think of all the different ways multicolored lands work today and interact with the rule system, right? Whether it's fetch lands or tri lands or cycling lands or pain lands or fast lands or slow lands or check lands or gemstone mine and on and on and on, right? Like OG Alpha just has these duels. They're basically as simple a design as you can get. It's what if we just stapled these two lands together? And then since then, to like add texture to the game, there's just been so many variations on this. And I always think it's just cool. It illustrates how complex and emergent a game Magic has become.
Yeah, and at this point in the game, at the very beginning of it, like the idea of a multicolor land is so fundamental to Magic now, and just completely familiar to anyone picking up the game at this point. But that had to start somewhere, and it had to start with some explanation of what it means for something to be two types of land at the same time.
Yeah, one other thing I like about this from a card design perspective is, or history perspective, really is you can really see with the OG duels the role rarity played in alpha balancing. So by modern standards, these cards are unbalanced, right? There's this idea that dual lands should come with at least some cost to access more colors and mana. They shouldn't be strictly better than basics. These are, of course, strictly better than basics, except for weird like wasteland interactions, or I guess your opponent is playing land hate because it's alpha. But the way that they're balanced is just by the expectation that players would buy, I think what Richard Garfield has said is people would buy a starter pack was the thought and like maybe 5 or 10 boosters total. And so the balancing would come from you might have like one duel in your collection, two duels in your collection. They weren't really thinking that people would go out and accumulate tens or hundreds of copies of any of these cards or four. So much so that the original alpha rules, of course, didn't have a card limit, a card play limit. You could play a deck that was like 25 Black Lotuses and 15 Ancestrals and deck your opponent out, and that was a completely legitimate deck, if you could acquire it. which is it's just fun seeing how much the game's evolved since then.
Yep. Yep. What do you think of Tundra art and Christmas wise?
Okay, art-wise, honestly, the only word I could use is just like workmanlike. I mean, this is gonna sound harsh, but I think it looks kind of like something you'd find at an estate sale that like the person who died might have been. Like that sounds harsh, but it's very sort of basic.
They either painted it or they got it 40 years ago, forgot they had it. It's been in the garage ever since.
Right. None of the kids were like, I want that one. You know, it went right to the curb.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really doing nothing for me. It overall, it's just kind of like a study in off-white. The reason this came up in our, I guess, search for cards for the Christmas episode is there are reindeer here if you look really, really closely.
It's a good thing we blowed
really
the art up so the reader or viewer has some chance to see the reindeer.
Yeah, it's really necessary here because otherwise it's just kind of a white, three shades of whitish gray, and then like a dark starry sky. And I looked at some of the other pieces by the artist Jesper Myrfors.
Yeah, Magic's first art director, actually, I believe.
Oh wow, didn't know that. I'm sure I'm saying the name incorrectly, but
I think you're about right.
Okay, there are so many great pieces by this artist. There's the original Atog. There's Bad Moon, Gazban Ogre, Word of Command, which is just that like black background with like two eyes.
Do you know the story on Word of Command?
All of it? No.
The story, I'm going to get the details wrong, but the story is basically Alpha was about to go to print. They realized that like one piece of art had never been submitted. And so Jesper literally like took a canvas, painted it black, painted two eyes on it, scanned it, and that was the art. It's kind of what it looks like when you look at it. It's pretty half-assed looking.
Yeah. So with all of those and many others, Tundra is just kind of there.
Yeah. What do you think about the Christmas vibes on this thing?
It's like a B for me in my Christmas book, I guess. Like it sort of has a peaceful winter. It's a peaceful winter scene, but nothing about it's really saying Christmas for me.
I give it like an A for Christmas. This might be just because we're at the start and I was generous and feeling sort of holiday. It doesn't scream holidays, but it's got a kind of nice, quiet winter scene. You know what it actually makes me think of is you and I, when we were kids, used to go to this resort in Central Oregon called Eagle Crest. This is going to be obscure to almost everyone listening to this. And we used to go there like around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and it's got a real kind of Eagle Crest in December, snowy vibe. You know, there's deer there. Again, this is I hope this is meaningful for you, Connor, because you're the only listener for whom this will be meaningful.
Yeah, there are definitely deer there.
There's snow. There's rolling hills, grass.
There's snow in a good year. Some rolling hills.
Yeah.
I don't remember it looking quite this bleak. But
I hope you weren't using Eagle Crest in any of your security questions online, by the way.
Oh boy.
Okay, so what's your letter grade? Sorry.
I think I settle on like a B for this. But if anyone else listening to Austin talk about Eagle Crest knows what Eagle Crest is, please let us know in the comments.
Oh yeah, that
would be phenomenal.
It's a wonderful place.
Yeah, it's like a B for me.
Yeah, I gave it an A just because it's a dual land, but I honestly, in terms of like my personal emotional reaction as someone who's never like owned this card except in, for Cube, it's like a C. I think it's a C for me.
Wow.
It's just, there's just nothing about it that really, I don't know. I'm all over the place with this one.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with that. All right, next up we have Goblin Rock Sled. I'm going to read the original card from the dark. Hopefully that gets the message across. It's 1 in a red for a 3/1 summon Rock Sled. It has trample. It says Rock Sled may not attack unless opponent controls at least one mountain. Rock Sled does not untap as normal during your untap phase if it attacked during your last turn. Yeah, I read this and I just think it is so much work for a lightning strike, which is just worse lightning bolt that costs 2 mana instead of 1. This is like a great example. This kind of connects back to Tundra already. It's like a great example of these land fixations in early Magic, like especially effects like this that you have no control over, like your opponent's color choices. Like I love that this is just useless unless your opponent is also in red.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about this card is that it has 2 drawbacks, right? And the first one is quite crippling. Like if your opponent's not playing a mountain or a red deck, um, this aggressive red creature does nothing, right? It's you didn't put this in your deck to block with it, right? So it already has a crippling drawback. For, by the way, stats that I think even at the time were pretty meh. Like this is not a crazy stat line in a world where Savannah Lions already existed and Grizzly Bear already existed. So that's fine.
It
But
doesn't even have like haste or anything.
right, and then they stick a second super crippling drawback on it that it can only attack every other turn. It's just it blows my mind that they felt like my only assumption on this is that it's a pure thematic play, right? Like I can't use the sled unless there's mountains, and then I think maybe the second one is going back up the mountain. That's my theory.
I think that yes, I think it's going back up the mountain, dragging the sled all the way back up.
It's so early Magic, like such a commitment to the theme and the sort of I guess really the world. Like there's something sort of fun about the commit, but then they could have just make it like a 3/2 or something. Like give me some reason to play it. Like has anyone ever played Goblin Rock Sled? Do you think? It's not even a goblin, so it doesn't even have tribal synergy. It's a rock sled back in the day.
Yeah, it is a goblin now, which is kind of a shame. I wish it was still a.
Couldn't it be a goblin sled? Like, come on, Wizards! Like, put a sled type in Magic.
It really should. Yeah, it's or like make it a 4/1 or something. Give it haste. Like, give me something.
Yeah, throw me a bone for sure on this one. Artistically, I gotta say, it's not doing a lot for me. I think the goblin is a little bit funny. But after that, it really falls apart. Like I genuinely, if I didn't know the name, I think I could look at this for a long time and never realize it's a sled. I can't even tell what is going on in the background at all.
No, it's a very goblin forward piece. I think because that's the only thing you can discern here.
But even then, you see like only part of the goblin.
Yeah, it's just like a little bit of shoulder. And then this gigantic nose, the goggles. I like the little goblin just hanging out in the corner, and then the rest of the piece is just. I guess if someone asked me, I would say it's probably a mountain. There's like a mountain in here, but I have no idea what's going on.
I mean, it could be water. Honestly, it looks more like a giant wave to me.
Yeah, it's like you're right.
It's like Goblin Jet Skier.
Yeah, Goblin Surf Bro.
I wonder if this is one of these cases where you have a new Magic artist who's not thinking about painting for a tiny frame. Because I think if this was like, 16 by 16 inches or whatever, you'd probably be able to tell what's going on, mostly.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, even like looking closely at the art, like we had to do with Tundra, what is that? Which part is the sled?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you look at it, it's like, I think it's like a blue top. That seems clear. And then there's sort of a white... not like undercarriage, and then I think there's like a white running whatever. What are those things sleds run on called? Rail things, whatever sleds.
Sled rail.
Sled skiff rail. Yeah, there's a sled scrail underneath it. Although in general, the sled itself is interesting because it's not a very fantasy sled, right? It's like a toboggan. It's like it's like a bobsled. It's something you see on the Olympics.
It is like a bobsled. You're right. I think like my brain wasn't even trying to like figure out the outlines or shape of this sled because I just couldn't.
You're just trying to confirm it was even a goblin back there.
Now that you said, now I'm picturing like goblins doing what's the Olympic sport where you've got like two people laying down? Yes.
Skeleton? No, that's the solo one. Is that? There's too many of these Olympic go down a tube together sports.
Maybe there's only one person in the tube, but hopefully someone knows what I'm talking about. That's what I'm picturing.
One other art fun fact on this one. The artist name you'll see is Denise Detweiler, but it is not Denise Detweiler. It is Dennis Detweiler.
Dennis.
Dennis did only 14 cards in Magic. 7 of them are in the dark. And all 7 the dark cards render his name as Denise. So that seems like a rough intro to Magic. Yep.
Oh, man. How did that happen?
I know. He's got some, I don't know if they're quite iconic, but I think some known pieces. Merfolk Assassin, Tividar's Crusade. Those are both kind of iconic pieces to me, at least, from Denise/Dennis.
I like the downgrade from iconic to known.
Known. Well, yeah. Like Merfolk Assassin, is that known because of the piece or because of it's a Merfolk card? Early Merfolk. I don't know. Christmas vibe wise, I'm like a D on this. Like I don't get any Christmas. I can't even tell there's snow. I can't tell there's sleds. I think if it was clear that's what was going on, it'd actually be very Christmas. But I think it's just a D.
It's an F for me on Christmas vibes. Like there's nothing there. I guess maybe if you really wanted to see this, the Goblin could be wearing a Santa hat. You
Yeah,
put a little
that's
white
true.
out.
Yeah, you can get this altered very easily. You could just use whiteout and make it into a Santa hat and be 10 times
There you
more
go.
Christmassy. Huh.
There you
If
go.
anyone's looking at these in their bulk box and wishing it was more Christmassy, now there's your solution.
You know what to do.
All right, you ready to move on?
Yes.
All right, let's jump forward to Ice Age, which of course has to have some wintry, snowy, Christmassy cards, and we'll talk about Caribou Range. Caribou Range, by the way, we're going to be reading original text in all cases today because so much of it is amazing. Anyway, Caribou Range, 2WW for an enchant land. When Caribou Range comes into play, choose target land you control. White, tap land, Caribou Range enchants to put a Caribou token into play. Treat this token as a 0/1 white creature. And 0, sacrifice a Caribou token to gain 1 life. It could be worse as far as early Magic rules dealing with lots of complicated things go. But basically, it's an enchant land. You could play 2 and tap it to make a Caribou, and you sack Caribou to gain a life. Card design wise, this is a terrible card, like in terms of power, but I really like it. I think it's like the flavor and mechanics are kind of a home run here, right? It's very Ice Age. It's like this icy, snowy thing all throughout. We got Caribou, we got icy art. I don't know. It just feels very, very Ice Agey. It makes sense that this range is sort of creating caribou. It makes sense that they're sort of roaming around out there. They form giant herds, and it makes sense to me that you're sacking them to gain life, right? You're like a hunter out there on the plains, like shooting your caribou with your bow and then eating them. So I feel like apart from sort of the mechanics sort of working on a flavor level, like terrible as it is, it does tickle that part of my Magic brain that wants to brew. It wants me to like look at cards and build engines, and it's actually kind of its own engine, right? It like makes the caribou and then makes the life. If it's a bad engine, anyway, I really like it. What about you?
I mean, I guess that's kind of a piece of crap.
Yeah, just ignore that it's an objectively terrible card because it is 7 mana, right?
Yeah.
Before you get your first caribou. Okay, I hadn't really thought of the math, but the math is rough. I'll grant you that.
4 mana to cast this, and then effectively 3 mana every time you want to get a caribou, because you got to tap the land too. You're giving up that mana, and then 2 others. I think I would that part of my brain would be a little more tickled if you could do something with the caribou other than gain life, and maybe
1 life.
Maybe if they were anything but 0 ones, like literally the worst stat line you can have.
It really could be just tap to make a 0/1, and it would still be bad, but it would be more defensible.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be excited about a 1/1 here either, or maybe gaining 2 life. I don't know, but there's just like it's bad.
There's
my first thought.
Go ahead.
My first thought when I read this was, I'm surprised that this can enchant any land and is not like enchant snow-covered plains or something.
Oh my god. Well, they missed a chance. I mean, it doesn't make sense. How could the caribou come from like a swamp, like a non-snow covered thing? That's ridiculous.
Doesn't check out.
They probably didn't have the like rules technology to support enchanting snow covered land when this came into play. Otherwise, I think it would have done that. Like looking at the rest of Ice Age, there's no way they would have missed that shot.
Yeah, it's bad. It's so bad.
Okay, so I like the design. You hate it. I am pretty mixed on the art here, if I'm honest. So I'll start with the negatives. I think the poses are, let's generously say stiff. You might also say nonsensical.
You might also say stuffed.
Oh my god, that's almost certainly what they are, isn't it? You wait a second. This is Ruth Thompson going to a natural history museum and sketching some taxidermy, isn't it?
It totally is.
Interesting. Some other weird composition things. The like dead flat horizon, I think, is a little weak sauce. The shadows are just weird. Also, I feel like the distant caribou are sort of spontaneously generating from the earth. Although actually yeah, exactly. It seems sort of appropriate. I probably Ruth did that as a flavor win, almost certainly, right? So I talked a lot about the bad stuff. I do like the colors. I like these bold comic booky colors. I think that's really fun.
I I like this art. It feels very nostalgic for me somehow. It's like a really bad Christmas card that you'd see in like a gift shop somewhere like Eagle
Mm-hmm.
Crest maybe, uh,
Uh-huh.
or or like a gift card, or not a gift card, but like a Christmas card you'd get from someone's grandmother, maybe not even your own grandmother, but just like a
Mm.
grandmother out
Like a
there
great, it's
would
kind of a
send it.
great aunt would send you this
Yeah, yeah,
with like
and it's
$1, $5 inside.
there you go. Yes, and it's kind of cozy, just
Mm-hmm.
like it makes me feel a little bit of holiday spirit more than any of the other two cards we've looked at so far.
She would give you $5. You could buy a new Ice Age pack and hope for a better rare than Caribou Range.
This this is not a rare, is it?
Yeah, I just double checked. It is a rare.
Wow. Let's move on.
Wait, we didn't talk about the Christmas vibes. Um, it's kind of a mixed one. So I would say it's a little menacing. I find this menacing. This art, I feel like the hunter when I look at it. Maybe that's just me. It's my
You are,
desired, huh?
and you are the menace.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, it doesn't make me feel warm when I look at it. It makes me feel a little. I don't know. They're fleeing something. There's an aura of threat to this card, but it does look like they're pulling Santa's sleigh.
It really, really does. You could paint that in here, like the little fluff ball on the back of Goblin Rock Sled's hat to really amp up the Christmas vibes.
Is that our Christmas episode insight? Is that you? Here's how you can take cards that don't look like Christmas and make them feel like Christmas.
There you go. There you go. Here's how to alter your Caribou Range and Goblin Rock Sled to make them more fun.
So what's the headline grade for you on this one?
This is an A for me.
It's an A for me too. I'm surprised it's an A. You didn't seem to like the art very much, the design at all, or the Christmas vibes.
No, I do like the art. It's
Okay.
comforting to me in a way, or cozy to me in a way that I guess is not for you. So we're getting to A from different directions.
All right. A.
Okay, I'm excited for the next one. This is Goblin Snowman. 3 in a red for a 1/1 summon goblins, also from Ice Age. When blocking, Goblin Snowman neither deals nor receives damage in combat. You can tap it to have Goblin Snowman deal 1 damage to target creature it blocks. And then I guess throw in the flavor text, first one we've had. Strength in numbers, right. Ib Halfheart, Goblin Tactician. I really love this card. This got a time shifted reprint way back in Time Spiral, which is also a long time ago, not quite as far back as Ice Age, but I'm a little shocked every time I realize how long ago that was.
We have to be farther from Time Spiral than Time Spiral was from Ice Age, right? By like a lot,
yes.
right? Because Time Spiral's like 08-ish.
Yeah.
Ice Age is like 90. What does it say on the copyright? 95. So that's 13 years. And 16 years, so anyway, go ahead. I didn't mean to like yuck your yum here. Keep going.
No, that feels bad, but there is a reason this got a time shifted reprint. It's not a competitive or a strategic or power reason. It's just like this is a wonderful, amazing card. It's cute, it's funny, it's not great, I think, but who doesn't like Goblin Snowman?
I absolutely love this card. I first got this in an Ice Age starter deck that I found at like a Goodwill in 2001. So when I opened it later in Time Spiral, it felt like I'd been let in on a secret. Like I already knew this weird card existed. Now the rest of the world does, but because I assume most people had forgotten about it because there's no reason to ever play this card. But I love it. I just love. I mean, we'll talk about the art in a second. But honestly, card design wise, I love this. Like, it's a bad card, but I love how weird it is for red to have this like neither deals nor receives damage thing, and then like a weird ping, which also doesn't feel. None of this feels red, and yet I don't know. I totally buy it as a red card. Yeah, I love this card.
Yeah, it feels like a tricky thing goblins would do. At least, goblins back in the day. I don't know what they're up to in modern Magic, but.
No, it feels kind of harmless too, right? They're just lobbing a snowman. Of course, it's just 1 damage. It doesn't really deal any damage. Yeah.
Yeah, but if one of the things I really love about the art in this card is if you look at the 3 goblins that are hiding behind the snowman, the one on the right has a snowball. He's just doing a snowball fight. The one on the left has a hatchet. he's played a very
I
different
never
game.
noticed that. That's amazing.
Yep.
You know what? I just realized I think the art mechanics thing, which we saw it in Caribou Range too. They're very tightly tied in Ice Age. I think kind of what's going on mechanically is the snowman is fooling the attacker, and that's
Mhm.
why it doesn't deal damage. And then hit him with the hatchet or the snowball, which is just wonderful.
One of those. They'll
Yeah.
each do 1 damage.
No, there's only 1 damage total coming out of Goblin Snowman. They made sure of that. We got to talk about the art, right? I mean, we already started. That is the reason. Literally, to be honest, this is the reason to do this episode. This is one of my favorite pieces of art in all of Magic. This is like an S+ piece of art to me. It is so funny.
Yeah, I love everything about it. The squat snowman, the goblin, like these violently green goblins hanging out behind the snowman. Like these are like the quintessential goblins in my mind. I don't know if I can credit Goblin Snowman for that at some impressionable point in my youth, but like this is a goblin to me. These little mischievous imps.
Yeah, they
hiding
are
behind a
very
snowman.
imp-like, aren't they? They've got these like
They are,
crazy long ears, long noses. They're almost barely humanoid. They
Yeah,
all look
red
kind of
eyes.
jolly. Here, it's great.
Yeah.
I've always thought the little sad face on the snowman is kind of the icing on the cake. You're like, why is he sad because he doesn't want to be with goblins? I don't. That's always kind of how I've read it.
Yeah, is it that he doesn't want to be with them, or he doesn't want to be their human snow shield?
That's true. They're decoy. Yeah. Rude.
Yep.
But goblins are rude. I'm going to bring the mood down just a little bit to say cards like this are what make me sad about like Universes Beyond and some of the more out there secret lair drops, because like this card used to stand out, right? Magic had this complex, nuanced world building, and then it would occasionally punch holes in that for weird, funny cards like this, and it really meant something. Like that had impact. And like you put this next to SpongeBob, it looks tame. So there's just something in that makes me a little sad.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Anyway,
I think I'm less anti Universes Beyond and Secret Lair drops and everything.
yeah, well, you're not
than you are,
as angry an old man as I am, yeah.
Yeah, not quite as old or as angry yet. But yeah, I agree. There's something special about this world of Magic that's, I guess, been a little disrupted by that. But
What about the Christmas vibes, Connor? I'm giving it an S+++ Christmas vibes.
They're undeniable here. I think you could just send copies of this card out as your holiday greeting to friends and family in lieu of a Christmas card, and it would fit right on the mantle.
It's honestly kind of a great
else's
idea.
families.
I mean, they're only like 50 cents.
I could tell the wheels
Wheels
are turning.
are spinning. You
You're
know what?
thinking about how many of these you need to order.
The first 3 people to email clockspinningpodcast@gmail.com asking for this, I'm not kidding, we will sign and send you Goblin Snowman. So,
All right.
this is a completely legitimate offer.
Yes, that I'm being volunteered for right now, and I'm totally.
Yeah, this was unplanned. This is just my sheer joy at this card.
Yeah.
All right.
We will do it.
Rating wise, Connor, there's only one rating I'll accept.
S for Snowman.
Okay, good. S. Yes, easy S. Okay, Connor gets the Goblin Snowman. I get our last Ice Age card of the day, which is the good old Arcum Sleigh. But so before we get to this card, because it's a little bit of a downer, if that snowman puts you in the kind of holiday spirit of generosity and giving and love as much as it has me, and if you've been wondering, like, what gift can I give Austin and Connor? They just offered to gift me a Goblin Snowman. You don't have to go far. Just hit that like and subscribe button. That's all the present we need. Anyway, let's talk about Arcum Sleigh. 1 mana for an artifact. 2 tap. Attacking does not cause target creature to tap. You cannot use this ability if defending player controls no snow-covered lands. Flavor text. With the proper equipment and caution, one could travel anywhere. Arcum Dagson, Soldevi Machinist. I think this legitimately might be one of the worst cards we've ever reviewed in power level. It might be one of the worst cards ever printed. I mean, this is almost Wood Elemental level of completely and utterly useless. Like, the idea that anyone would ever put this into a constructed deck of any kind, is utterly laughable to me. I can't, I was trying to concoct scenarios. Like, even if you're playing in some kind of weird 1995 friend group meta where everyone only bought Ice Age starter packs and no other cards, and you're playing Snowlands and you're opponent is playing Snowlands and you know that because they're your buddy. Like, this is still terrible because all it is 1 mana and then 2 and tap to give 1 creature vigilance. Like, this is a laughably bad card. And that's before we get, sorry, I keep forgetting it has a drawback because it's so bad. It's hard to believe that it has an additional drawback, which is you can't even use it unless your opponent has snow-covered land. Like, it's mind-boggling to me, Connor. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Every now and then we come across a card like this where it's basically impossible to come up with any circumstance where you would ever want to play it, including all the circumstances you just laid out. Like,
would you play it in like sealed deck? I just can't think of any scenario.
No, it's like even if all the conditions are met, your opponent has a snow-covered land, you, I guess, have the creature that you want to give vigilance to. It like there's basically no payoff for like 3 mana and a card to get vigilance.
I
like,
think I'd rather have the Goblin Rock Sled. At least it can trade in combat.
Yeah, I would rather have Caribou Range, I think, than this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I take Caribou Range all day.
Yeah. So it's like, even if you meet all those conditions, it's useless. As a comparison, there's a card called Sarah's Blessing, which was first printed in Weatherlight a few years after this. That is a 2-mana enchantment that gives all your creatures vigilance all the time. So this is just it's like completely unplayable.
Another thing is your opponent is not going to be playing Snowlands because today there's some universes where your opponent's going to be playing a snow deck because Cold Snap printed some interesting snow cards and then Modern Horizon sets have printed some very interesting synergistic snow cards that reward you for playing snow. Ice Age does not reward you for playing snow. So I went back and looked. There are 20 cards that interact with snow-covered lands in Ice Age. 9 out of 20 punish your opponent for playing them. So fully half of snow-covered land interactions disincentivize you from playing them. So there's just like your opponent's not going to be doing this. I also, the flavor text here is hilarious to me because like, what is that a joke? Like, I feel like it must be some kind of ironic comment on the card.
I know, it feels like a meta joke. Like, even with all the proper equipment, Arcum Sleigh can only travel on snow. Oh man,
it's amazing. It's amazingly
Let's talk about
bad.
this art. Speaking of amazing,
yeah, go.
This, to me, this feels like the result of some kind of artistic Mad Lib, where you had artist A who gave us this like beautiful, cold, frozen landscape with this mountain in the background.
It's like a John Avon level mountain, by the way. Yeah. It's like a great mountain.
And then artist A passed it to artist B, who drew a cartoon sleigh driven by a character from He-Man that is pulled by what appears to be some kind of like a teacup yak dog. And if you look at this poor creature that's pulling the sleigh, like, it is really hustling here. Like, that thing is straining to try to move this sleigh, and it's
very Grinch Stole Christmas, actually, isn't it? The poor little Max trying to pull the sleigh down the hill.
This is Max. That's the Grinch.
It is the Grinch. You know what? I think this might actually be, like, I'm making this up, but is this a Grinch reference? Like, look at the little guy pulling it, and then look at the whip. It's exactly like the Grinch's whip. It's this weird stick with the whip on the end that's kind of trailing nonsensically in the wind. Huh. This legitimately might be. Also, the sleigh is kind of Susie, right? It's a little, interesting. Yeah, this art is like, I loved your description. It's incredibly polarized. I think it must be that, like, I haven't looked at any of Tom Vonnerstrand's other pieces, but it must be he was comfortable with landscapes and less with other stuff. Because even if you look at the little furrows around the sled, they're kind of the mountains again in miniature. Like, the mountain realization here is great. But the creature, although I gotta say, I actually kind of love the creature. I think he's really cute.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not meaning to insult the yak dog at all.
Okay, it's the figure where things get a little dicey here in terms of just it looks really bad.
Yeah. Such an awkward, like, pose. Just everything about that figure is awkward.
Yeah. The kind of weird, sketchy face. The, like, is that a cape? Like, what is behind the black thing back there? It's hard to say.
I am not sure what's going on there.
Christmas vibe wise, I kind of get like an evil sorcerer trying to stop Christmas vibe.
Grinch.
It's the Grinch. the Grinch. It's the He-Man Grinch lady sorceress. I don't think this is Arcum, by the way. Surely this isn't Arcum here.
I mean, maybe this person stole Arcum's sleigh.
I don't think it's Arcum. No, Arcum's like an artifice. Okay, I'm looking at the Arcum from Cold Snap. I don't think this is no. Unless Arcum changed a lot into Old Age. The Arcum from Ice Age is sort of this. Yeah, I'll just go look it up. Arcum Dagson, not Ice Age, Cold Snap. What's your rating on this? I'm just an F. I think it's mechanical. There's actually things I like in the art here, but this card is so bad. It's so insultingly bad.
It's really bad. I'm at a C, maybe D, because the art is so terrible, but it's funny and it's memorable.
I mean, the more I look at the art, the more the art feels like A to me in a Christmas episode. It's pretty good. It's kind of Christmassy and it's very fun and funny.
Yeah. Yep.
Huh. Maybe C's right. It's like half F and half A.
Yeah, the card itself is absolutely F. The art, that's pulling it up a bit. Okay, let's move on to Avalanche Riders. This is 3 in a red for a 2/2 summon nomads. It has Echo, which is a kind of old keyword that says during your next upkeep after this permanent comes under your control, pay its casting cost or sacrifice it. It has haste, or unaffected by summoning sickness, and when it comes into play, destroy target land. So there's kind of a lot going on with this card, but in a kind of intellectually satisfying way. So it's basically 4 mana for a 2/2 with haste, with a Stone Rain glued to it, and you can choose on your next turn whether you want to pay to keep that 2/2 around, or let it just ride down the mountain, I guess.
I've always thought it as a Stone Rain with a 2/2 glued to that. The other way around, meaning.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I've design-wise, this is like one of my all-time favorite cards. Like ever since I stumbled on this in the early 2000s, I've always liked it. I think what I like about it is like, well, one, I like blowing up lands. I like that punishing mechanic. But beyond the joy of making my opponent not play Magic, I like the choices this card puts to you. Right, like you might just play it right now without a profitable attack because you want to set your opponent back on land. You might play it for the damage and swing in. You just need a little bit of chip. You might, do you pay the echo cost or not? Like this card forces hard choices on you and has like little knobs you're turning during gameplay in a way I really like. It's the kind of old school Magic, like spiky Magic design. Spiky in the sense that it's not afraid to make your opponent unhappy, and also spiky in the sense that it's asking you to understand how to optimize it and use it to best effect. So I really, really like this card just from a pure design perspective. It's one of my all-time faves.
Yeah, well said. I like this design a lot, but honestly, the art, which I guess we'll turn to soon, has always really, really undercut my appreciation for this card.
What's that?
Like, are we moving to the art? Are you
I'll just say one more design thing. This isn't. We used to call this Cube podcast. It's not really anymore. But in my personal cube, like I always think of that as like a 2012 cube because it's fixed around that power level, which this card is just barely good enough for. This card to me is like the epitome of what I like in a cube card. It's impactful, but it's sort of fundamentally fair. It synergizes, but not in a like hit you over the head way, but like flicker. This thing really starts looking a lot better. Reanimate. This thing starts doing some interesting things, right? I just, from like the things I like in like a cube environment, this card is S tier for me. I really, really like this card in cube.
Yeah, totally agree. I love that the synergies are there for you to spot and to play with, but it's not the kind of card where you put it in the cube and then you need to make sure that there are 2 or 3 other cards in the cube that like adequately support this or whatever. It can be a Stone Ring with a 2/2. It can play with flicker. It can do lots of different things.
And you might discover some of that at the table, which is another thing I like. Like, oh, and then you get to feel really clever, which I like. Okay, you can go ahead and start dumping on the art now.
Okay, I have always hated this art so much, and the like closer I looked at it to prepare for this episode, the more I grew to hate it. Where to start? So it's called Avalanche Riders. The avalanche here is just kind of a mild like pebble slide. Like there's just a few rocks sort of like gently rolling their way down this mountain. It's like something that you might slip on during a hike. Like there's some loose pebbles on the path. then we have this red like underlighting on the left side of the frame, and it just has no context at all. Like, is that the glow from lava? Is it just kind of like magical energy that's glowing on the side of this mountain just outside the frame for some reason? Like, what is this red light? And then the subject, this is the worst part. No, second to worst part. The subject of this art does not appear to be moving at all,
Yeah.
at least to my eyes. He is like sitting in this big bird nest on a mountain, just like hanging out there. And he's like got his hand out like this.
I think it's
What
like
is
a
this?
shell kind of thing. It's like a sled. It's like a rock. You know, it's a rock sled.
It's a sledge. Is that why this is here?
What? Yes, that. No, yeah. We should have said for some of these why. I guess for all of them so far, it's been obvious. Yes, this makes it into the episode because that is a sled, according to Scryfall's art tagging.
I didn't even like think of why this was on.
You just accepted it. You were like, yeah, let's stick that in there. Sure.
yeah. But I guess that's a sled. It just looks like a bird nest, and he's just sitting there going like,
Ooh,
what is that? What is he
look
doing?
at me.
Is he like, balancing? He
I
doesn't.
think
need
he's
to balance,
sculpting
not...
some kind of lava path or something down the mountain.
Then where's the lava?
It's off the screen, Connor, so we can focus on. You know what I think is part of what's going on here? This is an invitational card. So it has to depict the person's face. I'm trying to remember whose face this is. I should have looked it up. I think this is like the the first invitational card to ever see print, something like that. Honestly, I think in terms of invitational cards, it could be worse. Like, it doesn't have the Snapcaster problem of just looking unbelievably stiff. But I do wonder if, like, having to put a specific person's face in a recognizable way may be impacting some of the, like, stiffness and the compositional issues. I don't know. Because Edward P. Beard Jr., I mean, he's a stalwart. He knows how to do some art.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of surprising to me that this is a piece by him because it's, you know, a name that you see all the time on Magic cards.
Although I'm scrolling through his stuff. Faces are maybe not his thing too much, so I don't know.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
I do not have a problem with the face. That is
the least worst.
This art. The face, fine.
Yeah.
Like we're cool there. The hand, the pose, the bird nest, everything else, not okay.
So I have this down as pretty solid. I think my only critique is that the red lighting is just kind of weird. It's almost like this is a red card, put some red stuff in it. And I don't get a lot of sense of motion from him in particular. I think the background is actually pretty good at that. Like, it's hard to see at card size, but you got this sort of like huge plumes of dust and this other Avalanche Rider kind of like leaping off I don't know.
Is there another one back there?
Yeah. Look, he's over his left shoulder. See him back there? He's like he looks like a beetle. He's right where the dust cloud is originating. He's kicking up a V of dust.
Yeah, okay.
So I think actually the background's pretty, and that's where I get to the invitational thing. It's not that they have to put the face in there. It's what that does to the composition. Because this is a piece that wants to be motion, right? Like, or subject, right? Riding an avalanche wants to be like high motion. But if you have like a blurry, indistinct person, then you can't show whoever's face this is face very clearly. And so I think it's like, it's dragging Edward P. Beard into this like static territory that is really at odds with what this card wants to be about.
Yeah, that's fair. I literally did not realize that there were other writers in this art because
It's riders. Like, it's right there in the name, Connor. There has to be another writer.
I know. Well, no, that's part of why I hated it so much, because I always thought there was just one. Until this moment right here, I always thought there was one writer, and I was like, what?
I mean, to be totally honest,
why would they include the S?
Until I put this slideshow together, I've had this card and loved it for like 18 years. I did not notice there was another writer until I put this slideshow together and was looking at the blown up art.
See, it's the Goblin Rock Sled problem.
It is. What is the deal with sleds in Magic and making it clear?
Can't get them right.
It just, Magic, and this is the last sled we're going to talk about today. No, there's one more sled. Okay, we got one more sled.
Yep, there's a chance for redemption.
Christmas vibes. I give this like a zilch. I get no Christmas. I mean, it's not really expecting to have to pass a Christmas test, but it fails the Christmas pop quiz utterly.
Yes. This is like this is gonna wound you, but this is like a D.
Oh, come on. This is a B for me, and I think it's A. It's now an A for me. This is an A up from B.
You're gonna make me go down to F?
What? Don't you dare go down to F.
There's just like I have to give the Christmas aspect of this, the holiday vibes, a little bit of
some weight.
weight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Christmas wise, if I were grading this on Christmas, it would unfortunately be a D to an F. Okay, it'd be an F.
Yeah.
Fine, fine.
Yeah. Right. Right. So D is generous.
All right, let's move on before you change your mind.
Yeah, we better we better keep going.
Okay, let's talk about Rowen, a card I had never heard of in my entire life. Rowen is 2 GG for an enchantment, and it says reveal the first card you draw each turn. Whenever you reveal a basic land card this way, draw a card. And the 7th edition flavor text here is those who understand the forest are free to harvest its bounty, which I kind of hate. But anyway, um, my first note on this card is the name intrigued me because it's just Rowen, which I've only ever heard as a name, and I was like, what is this? What is this? Why is this called Rowen? So I looked up the word Rowen, and apparently Rowen means a second crop as of hay in a season, or a stubble field that's been left unplowed till late in autumn that may be cropped by cattle or reindeer in this image, or the second growth of grass in a season. So this is like some kind of unplowed field fancy word, which I think is fun. I learned a word that I am almost certain I will forget as soon as we move on to the next card. Design-wise, this card is interesting. I'm sort of amazed I'd never seen this card in all my years of Magic. It's like green card draw, and that used to be a very exciting novel thing back when this was a new card, in a way that it's not now. It seems like it would have been EDH playable before Wizards just started printing endless cards directly to EDH, but like 10 years ago, this seems like it would have been a fun, slow, just kind of green card that I would have enjoyed playing. It does the kinds of things I enjoy. Dirtily value creation is my jam.
Yeah. Like it's not a good card by any stretch of the modern imagination, but I
No.
really like the design. Like it feels to me like a perfect fit for card draw in green. Like you can get card advantage, but it's conditional and it's limited and you can't really be sneaky about it, right? Your opponent's going to see
Mm,
what you're up to, and the only kind of benefit you get is in the form of, more land drops and more mana to like play more Timmy creatures. Like that feels very like a very green way to do card draw to me, which I appreciate.
yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say about this card is I think it's easy to miss that word basic land when you're sort of evaluating it. Or
That
honestly,
is
it's a little easy for me to round this up to just draw an extra card a turn. But when you
yeah,
sit down and you go, wait a second, it's a land card, so I'm already at 40%. So less than half the time I'm drawing a card. And then a basic, and if I have a good deck, I'm not playing 40% basics. Let's say I'm playing 25%. So we're looking at like a 1 and 4. And I think from that level, it's the more I talk about, I think I'm verbally processing this. It's actually maybe indefensible, right? It's like 4 mana to draw a card
it's
one out
pretty
of
rough in
four
format.
turns. So it'll buy you back a card within 4. And then in another, like,
Yeah,
actually, the more I think, the math is pretty dire here. I think this could be every turn, and be fair. I guess it is
you
technically
mean
every
every
turn.
card? It is every turn, yeah,
So if you
but it's
were
not
in
every card.
blue and you had instant card draw on your opponent's turn, then it would only take you 2 turns to break even,
Yeah.
and 4 turns to profit your first card.
Uh huh. I mean, I guess
Um,
one other sort of benefit of it is it's a little bit of deck thinning, right? Like you're, you
is
know,
that where we're going? We're going to deck
yeah.
thinning.
When we get to the point of deck thinning, it's desperate,
That's like
but
a parody of bad magic
you're kind of just like
justification.
getting that basic land out of the way.
Hmm. Yeah, all right. Well, I'm turned around on it.
Yeah. What one thing for me about this card is that the wording, which has actually not really changed with the Oracle text, is pretty confusing to me,
Hmm.
and I think would have been very, very confusing to me when I started playing Magic, which would have been, a little bit later than seventh edition. So
Why
it
is
says
it confusing?
reveal the first card you draw each turn. Whenever you reveal a basic land card this way, draw a card. I think the fact that it's talking about drawing a card, but you're also revealing the card that you draw and then drawing another card. There's just a lot of
I
like
see.
I think the young me would have read this and went like, so am I drawing one card or am I drawing two?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's
Am I drawing the card that like I just revealed, or does this mean I get to draw another one? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
There's also a little bit of a wordiness thing. Like the second sentence could really be if it's a basic land. card, draw a card. Like there's just a lot of whenever you reveal a this way, like you could cut all those words, and I think it would be a lot easier to read.
Yeah, but minor quibble for this otherwise powerful and impactful card.
Yeah. Artistically, I gotta say it's almost like a successor to Tundra in that it depicts reindeer in a way I would characterize as workmanlike and completely
Yep.
forgettable.
Yep.
Um,
It's. I mean, I look at this and it's just like there's some trees, there's some animals, there's someone in the middle that I think I would have assumed was named Rowen.
yeah, me too. Me too,
That's it.
totally. If I'd seen this back in the day, I would have been like, why is Rowan an enchantment? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Why is Rowen not a creature?
Why is there having a guy in I think the guy's just in here so this piece has some thing to look at. He's also in the exact center midline,
Yes.
which is just like
I hate
awkward
that.
composition. Honestly, the composition here is like kind of awkward. We got like 50% grass, 30% tree, 20% background or further background. And the trees are like one line of trees. I mean, maybe it's a
Mhm.
windbreak since this is a field. I don't know. But I find it's like, what is this druid dude doing here? This is an interesting piece. To be honest, I feel like I'm being very harsh on it, but I find it hard to sort of concentrate on this piece enough to have a reaction to it. Like I can't. It's just like my eyes just slide off it
Yes.
onto
Yeah.
the star
It's
in the
like
bottom, for example. Like having this in foil, incidentally, would help a lot because those seventh ed foils or something.
yeah. It's like just background.
Yeah, it's apparently this was first printed in Visions. I'd never heard of this card, so it had been printed like long before seventh ed came around.
Oh wow.
And that's got sort of a Visions-y kind of African harvest celebration going on. It's actually a much better piece. It's by John J. Muth. It's still not really something I love, but I have some feeling towards it that is missing from Rowan here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Sort of like the art, I would say my reaction to or on a Christmas vibe level, it's like, there's no, I mean, there's reindeer. Honestly, I showed this to my wife. I showed all these cards to my wife to get her Christmas gut check, and she was like, I don't understand why this isn't your Christmas. She
What
didn't
is
even
what is
question
this?
Avalanche Riders, but she questioned this, which says something.
Wow, it really does. I'm curious what her thoughts were on the next one.
Yeah. So I have this at a B. I can't really understand why I had a B. I think I didn't parse how limited the card draw is. I'm taking this all the way down to D. This seems like a terrible card.
Yeah, I also landed at B, but I think I think as we've talked about it more, I'm also down to D. Like
This is
there's
a
just
pretty ungenerous Christmas episode from us.
we're just grinching it up here. Like there's nothing. I mean, the art is definitely a D at best. There's no Christmas vibe. And yeah, I think I feel worse about the card than I did when we started talking about it. Oh
All
man.
right.
Okay. Next up, a big tone change here. We've got Zombie Musher. So this is 3 and a black for a 2/3 snow creature zombie with snow landwalk. This is from Cold Snap, by the way. And you can pay 1 snow mana to regenerate Zombie Musher. The flavor text says the world spell thawed their icy graves, promising rest in soft, quiet earth at last. But Hadar called them to duty for a twisted cause. Sorry, I really had to squint at that last word. um, so the card design here, I think, is just totally uninspiring. Like I look at this and it's just straight up like pack filler
It's very
material.
draft chaffy.
Yes, yeah. Like I could see throwing this into like a Cold Snap limited deck, I suppose, if I really need something at 4 mana, or I just need another creature, or like I've got enough snow land to make the regeneration a thing. Like it could, it could do something, but it's never going to be exciting or interesting. You're never going to look at this card and go like, oh, I can't wait to put that in my deck.
I feel like in Cold Snap Limited, I can't say I played enough of it in the day to really know, but it doesn't seem terrible, right? It's like there's going to be snowlands from your opponent.
Yep.
So you've got probably 2 damage a turn that's totally unblockable. And if you do need him on D, he regenerates. So like he attack, he defend. Like I think he's kind of a like a unassuming role player, but not a bad one.
Yeah, he's like the art in Rowen or Tundra, workmanlike.
Yeah. I mean, I think let's move on to the art since there's not much to say about the actual card design. I think this art is just super good. It's very magic, late 2000s, and it's a little bit horrifying. It's got a certain photorealistic quality, but it's like it's Kev Walker, and he like knocks it out of the park basically every time. And this is another Kev Walker like almost photorealistic, super well realized, well composed, physical. There's a sense of motion to this that's been missing from all. By the way, this is in here because of the sleigh. We should have said, but
Yeah,
like the other two sleighs did not have any motion. This thing has some forward. I don't know. I love this art. I think it's great.
yeah. I think you're totally spot on with the sense of motion to this, which is important when we're talking about a sleigh. We want to see it moving. We want to see some life to it on this undead creature. Um, and it's interesting that this also has like a just sort of totally blank white nondescript background, but the way that the I guess these zombie dogs pulling the sled and the musher itself, like they really seem to be moving and coming at you in a scary way that was not true with the other sleds at all.
Yeah, we got snarling. We got one of them kind of just almost coming out of the frame, like he's turning towards you on the. Actually, they're both turning towards you if you look at
Yeah,
it
it's like
in
they
this way.
just noticed you.
Yeah, which is cool. I love there's like kind of like frost or rime or like there's something kind of coming off him. I don't know if it's the ice magic that's reanimated him, or he's just kind of come so recently out of the snow that like the snow is like coming off his back. But anyway, the dynamism in his cape, like I just think it's a really good piece. It's really it's not dramatic. It's not going to like stand out in a pack exactly, but it does its job really really effectively. Also, it's a totally white card, and yet it feels completely black. It's totally white, like color palette wise. And I think again, like there's just a lot of skill on play here, right? Like the deep shadows, as well as obviously, of course, the zombie, like pull it into this black art piece despite being pretty white.
Hmm. Yeah. I also really like the idea created here that the musher, the dogs, and the sled were all buried together. This is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
alluded to by the flavor text. They were all just kind of frozen together and then all came back together. It's kind of sweet.
Yeah, well, that's one word for it. Um, Christmas vibe wise, I have this down as either a 0 out of 10 or like an 8 out of 10. Like
Mm-hmm.
zombies aren't very Christmassy. I think we can agree on that. But I think if you ignore the horror, like it kind of works. It's a sleigh, some dogs. It's like the snow. Like I feel like there's a lot of Christmassy stuff. Like this could be in sort of a Christmas kitschy horror film, and I think it would work great.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the zombie musher and like the He-Man character on Arcum's Sleigh are conspiring to kill Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Yeah, I really like this. And you asked about my wife's reaction, so I'll tell you. She was like, "Yeah, I don't like it, but it's very Christmas." So it passed whatever filter that is.
Yeah, we'll take it.
What's your letter grade on this one, Connor?
I mean, I put C, but I don't really know why. I feel like it's at least a B.
I think it's a B. Like if I ignore that it's just draft chaff and no one's ever played this card since like 2007, um, it's pretty good draft chaff. I give it a B.
Yeah. All right.
All right, moving on to Goblin Snowman again. That's right. The only card in this list to be reprinted with wintry art is Goblin Snowman. I won't read the rules text. You've already read it. Um, so this is from a secret layer drop. We've jumped forward literally 13 years since our last card in the list. I'm going to sound a little Scroogey. I can't love this card. I think it's because I love the first card, Goblin Snowman, so much. Um, and this is like, I just don't get the whimsy. I think the mountain in the back is kind of whimsical, but like, I don't know. It's too realistic. I don't find it funny in the same way. I don't like how heroic the snowman looks. I mean, maybe the joke is this is how this goblin sees himself, that big, that powerful. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the whimsy's kind of died. To me, honestly, this is going to sound harsh. It looks like concept art for like a Frozen spinoff.
Ugh, yeah, this is like Olaf's
Oh
Goblin
my
Snow
god.
Sleigh.
Yes, this is like
That's kind of even
Olaf's
Olaf.
like big brother who's threatening him romantically in a love triangle. Like he's fallen in love with some girl snowman. It's like a short. He's fallen in love with the girl snowman, and then this snowman comes along. Actually, I would kind of
Yeah,
watch this. This actually sounds all pretty
you're
good.
talking it up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I don't like this one at all. I think like part of the magic of the original Goblin Snowman for me is the idea that like the snowman in the center of the frame that the card is about is really just like there is a decoy for the goblins hiding behind it that are waiting to ambush you and
Yeah,
hit
he
you with
looks like
a
an
wild
unwilling
natural.
participant. He's literally
Yeah,
sad.
yeah. The snowman's like, I do not want to be a part of this. And then here it's just like there's no snowballs being thrown. There's no trick. There's no like goblinish trap to it. It's just like it's literally the snowman.
Yeah, I think it's a
And
great piece.
yeah,
I think
like
honestly, if I hadn't seen the original Goblin Snowman and you showed both of them to me at the same time, I don't know how I'd weigh them. But I haven't had that lived experience, Connor.
yes, we have to go with what we've seen here.
Yeah, we have to be authentic. So I would give this like a, I don't know, a D.
Yeah, I'm realizing now I didn't even rate it, but it's a D for me too.
That's harsh.
All right, let's
All
move
right.
on.
Sorry, Goblin Snowman. It does have good Christmas vibes, honestly, but not my thing.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, we have Field Marshal here. This is 1 and 2 white mana for a 2/2 human soldier. Other soldier creatures get +1/+1 and have first strike. So this is another secret lair drop. This is, of course, a Frank Frazetta piece that we'll be talking about just as soon as we talk about the card itself. Um, I really like this card. I have a couple copies of the original printing from Cold Snap. I think that was the first one. Um,
Yep,
and I just
Cold Snap.
like, yeah, I really like a card like this that like fills a space in a deck that's built for it. Like this isn't going to work in every deck. This isn't going to, make every deck better or more powerful. But if you build around it, if you have enough soldiers, if you have enough of a like go wide build to get value out of that +1/+1 in the first strike, then like this is just a really solid card.
Yeah, I love this card design wise. This is the kind of like Avalanche Riders. This is the kind of Magic card I like, power level wise, emergent gameplay wise. Right, it like obviously pushes you in a pretty sharp direction compared to say Avalanche Riders. But it still requires deck building. You got to put in the work for this to be good. It requires decision making. It doesn't boost itself. Like I don't know. It itself is not quite on rate, so you got to have other soldiers kind of make up for that.
Yep.
I don't want to sound like a cranky old man here again, but it's the kind of thing that like modern Magic would not maybe make this as meh as it is, or not as meh, but as conditional, right? If you don't get the soldiers out, like this thing sucks. So anyway, yeah, I love this card. This is the kind of card I just like playing with.
Yep. This appears in about 10,000 decks on EDH Rec. This is the only card I checked there.
Yeah,
And
I don't think like Goblin Snowman, Rowen, Zombie Musher. I don't think they're making waves over there.
yeah, well, I mean, just statistically speaking, Field Marshal is not making waves either because now we're at a point where 10,000 decks is 0% of decks on the site, according
Wow.
to yeah, which is pretty astounding. But I'm guessing, that's more a reflection of like the popularity of Soldier Tribal in general than this card specifically. It seems to show up, pretty consistently in like very like soldier heavy commander decks.
Hmm.
Um, and
Quick distraction quiz, Connor. Which do you think is in more EDH rec decks? Goblin Rock Sled or Arcum Sleigh?
it's got to be the Rock Sled, right? Because it's a goblin, at
No,
least.
bizarrely, no. 47 for Goblin Rock Sled and 200 or 120 for Arkham Sleigh. I honestly can't think
Well,
of any reason to put Arkham Sleigh in any deck like ever as we established at length, I suppose. Yeah,
well,
he's like he's in a handful of Jorn God of Winter decks. Um uh, Bear 10 of them. It's just yeah, I don't know. He's his third commander is Zedru the Great Hearted. I just love the idea that you're not giving your opponent actively punishing things. You're just giving them insultingly bad cards. So 7 people just thought it would be funny to give someone a Arkham Slay. That's amazing.
I like that. I like that.
That's great. Anyway, sorry, Field Marshal. Should we talk about the art?
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard to even know what to say about this. It's a really cool Frank Frazetta piece. There's polar bears, and actually, I guess my biggest critique of not even the art, but just the composition of the card, I guess, is that half of the polar bears here are cut off by the text box, and we
Yeah,
just see like a couple of polar bear heads poking up over the top. It kind of like loses the some of the majesty of this as like a vertical piece of art.
just print it textless. I mean, they did textless cryptic command. Just go textless field marshal. Squish the text box. I don't care. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to.
make it smaller, like Goblin Snowman.
Yeah, it's not just the seeing the polar bears, though it's part of it, because it's really like you just have this pile of polar bears like peeking over the text box, which
Yeah,
really like kind of messes with the composition. But also, I think it's like it's just such a vertical piece. It's like so designed around those vertical lines. It bums me out to have it. It doesn't want to be a landscape piece. Like if you weren't able to see the other polar bears, this piece really falls apart compositionally. It's like, why is there so much sky? What's going on here? It doesn't work.
yep, yep. That
Um,
all kind of makes sense because this piece was originally the cover of a 1970 fantasy novel called The Silver
the
Warrior.
Silver Warriors.
Yeah, so this would have fit perfectly on that paperback cover, and not so much here, sadly.
It's pretty badass. Yeah, I gotta say aesthetically. So I like Frank Frazetta. I find this piece a little almost too clinical for me. I don't have a strong emotional reaction to it. I mean, I think it's a cool piece, but it's not something I have a strong feeling about. I like his
That's fair.
sled a lot, or his sleigh, chariot, whatever you want to call it. I guess it is a sleigh. It's like a chariot sleigh, right? It's a sort of very Bronze Age, to me, sort of
Yeah,
chariot state with some. We still didn't learn what the things on sleighs are called. We should have done that before. Found out before this episode, but it's got those things on the side that make it go
yeah.
on the snow, Connor.
The snow go things.
What about Christmas spirit? It's very wintry, and yet I don't get Christmas here. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think with the sword and the sense that I'm
Mm.
about to be attacked by this guy, like
Yeah, he's gonna behead you,
yeah, it's
or
just
have
like
his polar bears maul you.
yeah, and this this deep blue sky, something about it is very bleak. Like I just picture myself in the middle of a like frozen wasteland
Yeah,
under an unforgiving sky, and my head's about to be cut off by
yeah. Somebody's blood is gonna
this polar
stain the
bear
white
dude.
snow.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not really putting me in the holiday spirit.
actually, scale question here. Either these are some very small polar bears, or this is a very large man.
Where this brings us back to Arcum Sleigh again with the teacup yak dog.
you know,
What's with these tiny polar bears?
the way this is cresting the hill is again a little bit of a like Mr. Grinch kind of deal going on here.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. There's also a broader thing in terms of Christmas vibes that even though polar bears are like winter snow, they're literally from the North Pole. I've never felt like polar bears, they're not Christmassy. They're in the Coca-Cola ads, but I don't think of them as like an iconic Christmas thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Why is that?
I don't know. I feel like some marketer you need to get on this, like force polar bears down our throats at Christmas. Help Coke out.
Hmm.
Grade wise, I give this like a B. I like it. I like the piece. I like Field Marshal. It's a solid card.
I give it an A. I have a real soft spot for Field Marshal, and I mean the art. It's not Christmassy, but it is pretty badass.
All right, I'll grant it. All right, our final card of the day, Rimefur Reindeer. That sure sounds like a Christmassy name. 3 and a W for creature elk. Wait a second. 3/4. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature and opponent controls. And the flavor text, attracted by the quiet of Hilda's realm, reindeer herds moved in and made themselves at home near the Palace of Ice. Card design wise, it's a little like the zombie musher earlier. It's like just a limited card, but it does nice things in limited. It kind of asks questions that it doesn't answer itself, right? It wants you to like play some enchantments for it to do anything. It's got an okay but not exceptional stat line. It's like a funnish little limited card. I like it.
Yeah. It is actually a card, the only card here, I think, that, at least in recent memory, that I've played. This
Hmm.
was like a very occasional late pick in Wildsville drafts for me when you kind of end up falling into like a white blue or white black deck. Um, and I sort of vaguely recall this card falling into an awkward spot where the white U archetype is like focused on tapping things, the white black
Hmm.
one was focused on enchantments, and this is kind of like trying to do both and
Hmm.
not doing either very well. But it's kind of like Zombie Musher, I guess. It fills the curve.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a filler for sure. Artistically, I don't have like many notes here. This is like just one of these standard Magic card arts for me.
Yep.
It's a little too fantastical. Honestly, I don't. It's fine. I don't mind it. I don't love it. It's just a piece of art.
Yeah, it really has Frozen vibes to me.
It's
Like,
literally like Elsa's castle in the
yeah,
background.
yeah, which was kind of, I think, like the whole white blue archetype in
Hmm.
Wilds of Eldred was basically just like Frozen.
Hmm.
Um, one thing that really bothers me about this one is it feels a little bit like the Arcum Sleigh situation where background here it's like it's consistent between, like, the art style is consistent all the way across, but it's like the background was painted on one day and then the artist Lucas Graciano came back the second day and was like, "Oh, wait, there's no land for the reindeer to stand on. So I guess it should just be flying." And like,
Wait a sec. This is one of these Magic cards that's flying in the art but doesn't have flying. That's confusing.
yeah, yes, yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that bothers me a little bit. But yeah, it's hard for me to feel much of anything about this one.
It's kind of got, I talked about the problem, the invitational card, you got to get the face in, and that does weird things to the composition. I feel like
Hmm.
this kind of has that with the lore, right? We've got this flavor text that's like reindeer near ice palace with specific proper noun attached to it, right? And this is like, got to get the reindeer in, got to make it magical, got to get the ice palace in. And like, it's just, I think that the composition feels a little constrained as a result.
Yes, yes, for sure. What do you
Um,
think of the Christmas spirit here?
I think it's quite Christmas, and as you say, kind of a like frozen-y kind of way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It feels like a straight to Disney Plus kind of Christmas special. Maybe it'd be part of the Olaf love triangle special
Oh
going
God.
on here.
Um, yeah, this is like who is this reindeer? He looks kind of mean. I think he's with the other snowman. He's kind of like his henchman or something. He's trying to
Mm,
headbutt Olaf. Something like he's gonna carry Olaf away on his back so he can't seduce the Goblin Snowman from Ice Age.
yeah,
I would seriously, Disney, call
get on
us.
this.
We're interested. We want to make this happen.
Drop a comment.
All right. That is it for our Christmas cards. That's it for our Christmas card special. If you like the video, again, you can let us know in likes. But also, if you know any of these cards, if you have memories of any of these cards, we'd love to hear them in the comments. It's really fun when people are like, I love Goblin Snowman, or you're totally wrong. The new Goblin Snowman is the best. In which case, don't like, don't subscribe. Just leave the channel. But thanks so much for listening. We had a lot of fun researching and prepping this episode.
Yeah, and happy holidays, everyone.
Oh, that's right. Happy holidays.